Morning. I'd like to call the Tuesday, June 23rd meeting of the Reno County Commission to order, please. Our first item today will be the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer given by Pastor Kim Berry of Trinity United Methodist Church. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. God of peace, thank you for another day filled with opportunities to do good and make positive changes. Give us the strength for the long haul as we continue to move through frustrating times of COVID-19, violence around the United States, and divisions that seem to be deepening. Make us bridge makers, leading through the problems towards solutions. Lord, direct our meeting today and our leaders as they work together for the good of all. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Kim, for being here. You're one of our more regular pastors to come, and we really do appreciate your involvement in our meetings. Thank you very much. Oh, Bob's in Kansas. Okay. Commission chair announcements. We have several today that we would like to entertain. The first one, I'd like to introduce Bill Hermes to make a retirement recognition.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Bill Hermes, Director of Youth Services. Today's kind of a bittersweet day. The year of 1995 is a nice year in my memory. That was the year that my son was born and the year that we hired Kelly Lott at Youth Services. Kelly, within a couple of years, became a supervisor. She's been a supervisor for the last 22 years at Youth Services. And Kelly and I have, and the rest of us that have been here for so many years have become like family. We've been to each other's kids' weddings. We've been through the hard times of deaths in the family and Kelly losing her husband last year. But one of those things that when you look back on, the kids that you grew up with in grade school or in high school, you think are your friends for life, but it's really the people that you work with, that you work for a long period of time. I mean, you think 25 years. In my lifetime, that's almost 44% of my lifetime that I've worked with Kelly. And she has definitely become a member of my family, Shelley Bredemeyer's family, and all those that at Youth Services have been there for a long period of time. And I've told you and I've bragged about the employees at Youth Services many times. And I've told you you're as only as good as the people that surround you. And Kelly is definitely one of the people that's made Youth Services shine, at least for the last 25 years. So I want to present Kelly with this certificate of retirement. It states on it, we want to express our sincere thanks and appreciation for 25 years of outstanding service to Reno County's Department of Youth Services. Your dedicated service to youth over the past 25 years has been exemplary. Furthermore, your leadership and compassion have provided assurance and guidance to hundreds of your fellow employees and to thousands of youth throughout your tenure. We wish you good health, happiness, and safe travels in your retirement. Congratulations.
Very good.
Thank you.
Kelly, on behalf of the Reno County Commission, I'd like to congratulate you on your 25 years. As Bill has said, when he makes presentations to the Commission on Youth Services, he always mentions the staff being the critical part to make it so good, and I'm sure, as he said, that you were a vital part of it through the years. Sorry to lose you, but good luck and best wishes in your further endeavors. Would you like to say anything?
I'd just like to say that it's just been a privilege to work for Reno County Youth Services. Mm-hmm. This is my extended family. and I'm going to miss them.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for being here.
Thank you.
Very nice to.
Congratulations.
Okay, the second part of Commission Chair's announcements today. Audience, we have Jackson Swear, and we'd like to invite him to the podium today. At last week's meeting, Commissioner Bush asked Jackson to come because we're planning on appointing him to the SCED board. And I guess the question was, Jackson, welcome, but the question was that we wanted to kind of know more about your thoughts about your involvement with SCED, what you feel you might add to the SCED board, and how you're looking forward to that appointment. So
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. So I don't know as much about SCED as I would like. So
you're aware that Commissioner
I'm aware that
Hurst is on the
Commissioner
board.
Hurst is on the board.
Okay.
So I will have a good guide here in Reno County as I join the board. For me personally and for our organization, I think that the opportunity to learn more about what SCED does and some potential to partner with them on things more frequently in the future is something that I would look toward. As far as what I can bring to the board, I think representation from Reno County is important. I think the entrepreneurship community is an important part of many of the things that SCED does, and I think that perhaps I can bring some different perspective into that board that hopefully over time, as I learn more and get comfortable there, will become valuable.
Okay. Ron, do you have any questions?
Yes, one thing I appreciated about when Jim mentioned Jackson's is he asked, can I learn more about SCED before I consider this? And so I presented him with the copy of the bylaws and the committees and the functions that were updated here about 3 years ago from our new administrator. So, Jackson, would you care to comment about what you found with regards to the workings out of that notebook of about so thick?
Well, there's quite a lot in there, Ron. I think that an opportunity to access some loan funds that they administer is something which is of most interest to me in the sort of the small business entrepreneurship community. I'm also familiar a little bit, at least, with some of the work that they do around weatherization, which is critical work around the state, although not directly tied into entrepreneurship, but helps low-income homeowners get cheaper bills, really, for their electricity and their utilities. And I in a past life, I used to help run a weatherization assistance program here. So I'm familiar with that. I'm excited to get plugged back into that work a little bit as well. And there, I'm sure I'm leaving off many things, Ron.
Yeah.
But
those
are two things that I keyed in on.
Okay, because I know I think he would make a very important piece to the many committees that we have with regarding to loan making. That is a large portion of not only small ones, micros, but the larger loans, the 7A and 504s,
Yeah,
503s.
That's right, Commissioner. I think that in SCED, there's an opportunity to access a larger pool of money than some of what we can access here locally, even through our partnerships up with Network Kansas. Mm-hmm. And it's often, especially when you get to bigger projects, even things that are brand new startups, some of those are bigger and require some more capital to get going. And so having the opportunity to layer different funding opportunities and different channels together to make those possible is really important. So I think that partnership could be critical to future projects.
And I think one of the things that Jim was looking at, as well as I was, to look at younger members of the board for a different aspect and to complement those of us who have been around a while. I think it's important to start that process. So appreciate the opportunity that you said yes.
Yeah. Very good. Jackson, I think you make a good point about the ability to work together with what you do daily and so forth, and the ability to SCED to fund larger projects. That makes a lot of sense. And I think as those of us that kind of look at public funding groups and all, the more cooperation we can have between those groups. So I think the appointment to you to this board makes a lot of sense. And we'll put that on to our consent agenda at a later date. You don't need to stay for that, but we'll put your appointment onto that. So
Okay, great. Any other questions for me?
I don't believe so, but thank you very much for coming.
Great.
Thank
I'm always,
Okay.
always glad for the opportunity to be here.
Okay. Come back and see us often. Keep us updated on your primary job, okay? Okay, are there people in the audience from the district attorney's office today? Please, are you Natasha?
I am.
Okay, please join us,
Okay.
Natasha Esau. Last week we had two attorneys from the district attorney's office introduce themselves, tell about their background and what they do in the office. I thought it was particularly interesting to, the county has so many people in so many places, and I'm not sure the public understands what everybody does. And so, welcome, Natasha, and tell us about your educational background and then your business background, please.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. A little bit about my background. I graduated from Bethel College for undergraduate, and then I went to Washburn Law School for my law degree. I graduated from Washburn in 2013. After that, I worked in private practice for about 2 years in Lyons, and then I have been here at the district attorney's office since then. So I've been here almost 5 years. My position as an assistant district attorney includes handling a large portion of the drug cases. I've been handling the simple possession cases for some time, and now I'm moving into a position where I'll be handling a lot of the drug distribution cases. I also recently took over the drug court prosecutor role, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, that's a little bit about my position here at the DA's office.
Okay, what are your thoughts about drug court at this point? You're new to it and so forth. For those of us that help fund it and watch it, it seems to make a lot of sense to try to help people move forward with their life and stay out of incarceration and so forth. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, definitely. I am a big supporter of the program, and I'm really excited about getting to take that position. Drug court really focuses on the treatment aspect as well as the person's whole life as far as their housing, their mental health, all of those different components that can really contribute to addiction and that lifestyle. And I've seen, just in the short time that I've been involved in the program, I've seen a lot of people just really change their life around. It's more intensive than regular probation or community corrections. And it works really well for persons that are struggling with both addiction and or high risk, high needs is the term we use, as far as not having the support system that maybe somebody else that was struggling with addiction has. And so drug court gives them that support system to take care of the many facets that can contribute to addiction and crime, as far as mental health, substance abuse treatment, housing, looking for employment down the road once someone's maintained sobriety, as well as, I think the biggest thing is just giving the person a community, a recovery community, as far as incorporating Oxford House and the other persons that are in the drug court program are a great asset for people that are working through addiction and into recovery.
Okay. And what part is the county prosecutor's office in the drug court system? Is that to make sure the drug court is effective with that individual?
It's the same position as a prosecutor. It's still a criminal case. In order for someone to get into the drug court program, they have a pending drug possession case or other crime that is related to drug use. So there's been a conviction, and then the person is on probation. So as the prosecutor, you're there to make sure that the laws are followed and that the person is given due process, but you're also there to be part of the drug court team and look at what's in that person's best interest. So it's kind of a unique role as a prosecutor that you're not in as much of an adversarial situation as other cases because you have the drug court team that you work together. But you're still there as a prosecutor as far as making sure that due process is followed and those type of issues. And if someone ends up being terminated from the program, you then step in as a representative of the state.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ron?
Yeah, I might ask, I believe you had a program here last week, was it? That graduation of those who graduated. Could you talk a little bit about that program with regard to what they have to do and so forth to accomplish that graduation from drug court?
Yes, definitely. Drug court graduation is really a big accomplishment. In order to graduate from drug court, someone has to have maintained sobriety for a certain period of time. There are different phases in the drug court program. There are 4 different phases. The first phase is just focused on going to treatment, reporting to who you need to report to, and showing up where you need to show up. After that, the phases gradually increase in what's expected of the participant as far as gaining employment, maintaining sobriety, and just becoming functional in society and maintaining sobriety and participating. So at the drug court graduation, the person is done with drug court. They have fulfilled all of their obligations. They've maintained sobriety for a certain period of time, and yeah, it's a big accomplishment.
I intended to attend the graduation, but a conflict came up, and I apologize for not being there.
Well, yeah, we have graduations every month or 2, depending on how many participants have completed the program. So, yes, you're definitely welcome to attend those. And
Please let us know.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Mhm. Okay, is there,
Andy,
okay. I'm sorry.
as another member of the DA's office,
Okay.
I thought maybe he was going to.
Okay, is he
but
going to make, sir, are you wanting to make a presentation?
I'm not on the agenda today.
Okay.
I just came down with her. But
Okay.
I work with her.
Oh, okay, is she good to work with?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Put it on the
Thank
spot.
you. Thank you for being here. Okay, at this point in time, we'll have our weekly update from the Health Department Director and Emergency Manager Director. Nick, your comments for today?
Good morning, Commissioners. Nick Baldetti, Reno County Health Department Director, appointed Health Officer, Reno County. I'll just give a brief update this morning. As of this morning, on the COVID-19 front, the United States has 2,312,302 cases nationwide, with 120,402 deaths associated with COVID-19. There's activity in the surrounding states that we share jurisdictional boundaries with. Generally speaking, Colorado, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Missouri continue to see an increase in cases. None of which, except for Oklahoma, I believe, in terms of the trending activity, has been marked as generally you see in the news like steep spikes in activity. For the state of Kansas, as of yesterday at 2 o'clock, we're at 12,465 cases, with 1,056 of those requiring hospitalizations, with 259 deaths associated with COVID-19 in the state of Kansas. For Reno County, this morning we tested 2,419 constituents with 2,359 negatives. We currently have 60 positive cases with 10 active cases. With 75 tests outstanding as of this morning, our positive test rate has climbed by about 10%. We're at 2.48%, so we're still under that 3% threshold. But it has increased over the activity over the weekend. We've tested 3.85% of the population with 50 total recoveries. I announced on the phone call this morning, as well as just state that a press release is forthcoming in terms of the new activity over the weekend that we've had. We registered 9 new cases over the weekend from Friday to yesterday. And so we're actively investigating those. But generally speaking, we don't know the source of exposure as of yet through the disease investigation, which is indicative of what we have some community spread going on. But there'll be more information forthcoming with regard to those cases. There was also a request on the phone this morning that if we were to have further activity in terms of if we had another spike in cases, say 5, 6, or 9 cases like we had over the weekend, that a press release be in short order versus waiting for the timeliness of a week, which I think is appropriate, and we will the health department will make sure to release that if that activity presents itself. Other than that, just a reminder of the Reno County moving forward guidance out there in terms of the best recommendation for mask use, making sure to notify the health department if there's any kind of planned event with over 100, that it simply be the health department be informed for disease investigation purposes in terms of just having a contact should we have any activity. And then, of course, continuing to advocate for the social distancing, hygiene practices, and upper respiratory etiquette appropriate when you're out and about. So, the last comment I have is that I've made contact with, or I should say, I've left a message with Sedgwick County. Some news outlets yesterday had posted some information about the hospitalization activity in Sedgwick County, and I've asked my public health peers for direct information and metrics that they're measuring to get some information in terms of what they're tracking and what their trending is. And so I just want to make sure we keep that pulse, keep track of that pulse from Sedgwick County, since they are so close to us, and it's a short jaunt down 96 to us. So anyway, that's the public health update that I have for you this morning.
Nick, a couple questions on these 9 new cases. Are they connected, or are they 9 separate situations?
So what I do know, and there'll be more clarity in the press release, but what I do know is we have a couple. So those 2 are obviously related, and I know we have one that is confirmed to another known laboratory confirmed case. But excluding those 3, the remaining 6, we're still not sure the source of exposure yet. So, but
Okay, what about hospitalizations here in Reno County?
Yeah, so right now, hospitalization metrics as of this morning still look good. The hospital has a census of 75. They have 1 patient who is awaiting test results, but they have no patients intubated and no COVID positive activity within the hospital right now.
Okay, so we really don't have any serious medical issues
No.
at this point in time.
Yeah, not associated to COVID-19, no.
We're hearing more and more about people testing positive that don't have symptoms. Is that unusual? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's not unusual. From the onset of this event, we always had the concern about the asymptomatic. Now it's gone back and forth. I think the last time I was here last week, it was right at the heels of the World Health Organization making a public comment about the asymptomatic spread being a rare occurrence. Literally that Tuesday of last week, the World Health Organization came out and tried to re-clarify those statements. It is less likely that an asymptomatic carrier would spread to the same level that a symptomatic individual would, but there is spread capabilities of asymptomatic individuals. But the fact that we're catching and testing asymptomatic individuals is more predicated on the fact that we do have the testing supplies available. And again, we've opened it up that if there's any concern that an individual might have, if they think they've been exposed or potentially exposed, they can call here locally, like Prairie Star or Hutch Clinic, and they can get in and get tested. And so we have had 2 in the last 2 weeks that have been tested, and they've been asymptomatic here in Reno County. So I think we'll continue to catch more and more as people request those testing that potentially are not showing symptoms at all.
Okay, my final question, and I think the public's interested in your views on these things. Certainly, community being outside is not near as dangerous as inside gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
Would you concur that?
Yeah. So even the CDC has made statements about the risk factors associated with outdoor activities as far less probable in terms of contraction exposure than indoor activities. And I can say, at least anecdotally, that many of the cases that we've had up to this point, and again, I'm excluding the specifics of our 9 new cases because I still need to look into all the activity associated. But up to this point has generally been contact within enclosed spaces. You really have to, again, reach that saturation point within a 6 feet window, have some close exposure, it looks like, to really contract the virus. So outdoor activity really seems to not be near as much of an exposure risk as opposed to if you were to go to a packed, indoor event or a close proximity event with a group of people.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, as we come up, we're going to hear more about it, I suppose, next week also. But as we come up on a holiday weekend, that it sounds to me like, with what Commissioner Sellers raised, that if you're going to have a get-together over the 4th of July, it'd be helpful if those activities were outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
rather than in a compact air-conditioned house,
Yeah.
or something like that. So for that aspect. Now, one other one that I'm just curious about, because all kinds of questions raised, and I doubt if there's any answers yet, but back in January and February, there was a lot of people contacted some illness that really put them down for a while. Has there ever been any testing done with those who went through that period of sickness?
Sure.
That
So
have been tested for COVID?
it's a challenge, and yes, to your point, Commissioner Hurst, there was certainly some upper respiratory illness going around that I think generally was kind of unknown, going around not only in our community but throughout the nation. There has been some research that has suggested, albeit few actual published studies, suggesting that the SARS-CoV-2 virus may have been here earlier, but there's not many, and so I don't know the validity yet. But that being said, in terms of specifically your question around testing, the challenge persists in that there are antibody tests available, which would be the post hoc testing that you're referring to in terms of measuring have you had the virus and has your body responded appropriately. The challenge with those current FDA-approved antibody tests is that they don't specifically parse out which coronaviral body that you've had, but actually it just tells you whether you've had a coronavirus.
Okay.
The challenge being is that the common cold is a coronavirus.
Okay.
SARS-CoV-1, the SARS of 2009 is a coronavirus. So if you've ever had a coronaviral body infection, you'll get a positive test. It's not necessarily indicative that you've been exposed and or contracted COVID-19. Right. So that's the challenge with post hoc testing, at least currently.
Okay, thanks for helping out.
And isn't it true that some of those tests are not as reliable as you would like them to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the aspect of so right now the gold standard of PCR nasopharyngeal swabs for testing still has a false positive rate or I'm sorry, a false negative rate of about 30%. But it's the best we have right now. So there's still, and that's the gold standard testing right now. These antibody testings that we're discussing, it's even a greater percentage of false negatives. So, and then again, you throw in the aspect of you don't know which coronavirus body you've had, and it's just as challenging.
Thanks for explaining.
Well, I think the public's always interested in your weekly updates to the commission, and appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Adam, do you have items for us this morning?
Just one. Good morning, Commissioners. Adam Weiser, Emergency Management Director. There's just one thing I want to touch on this morning. Late last week, I mentioned this in the conference call, but I also want to put it out publicly. Late last week, either Thursday or Friday, the Kansas Department of Emergency Management started allowing infrastructure to request non-surgical personal protective equipment through their emergency manager through the state. What that means is that we can now provide, or will now provide, masks and face shields to any business or infrastructure inside the county. So it could be big business, small business, any venues, even down to if they're holding a protest, we can provide masks to them as well. That'll be a huge undertaking on the county. Met with the health department last week, and for approximately a 30-day supply, we're looking at somewhere around 100,000 masks and 30,000 gowns just to get us by that 30 days, and we're supposed to request 90 days. So we're going to kind of see how this first 30 days goes, put together some sort of resource request through the health department to try to streamline the process and get those into the hands of those who need them. But at the same time, if we really have to request a 90-day supply, we may be coming back to you at some point in time to try to figure out a distribution location or somewhere to store those supplies.
So at this point in time, can a business request that from you?
They can. So
And do they request that from emergency management or the health department?
It'll eventually go through the health department. So right now I'm dealing with 100% of the resource request. The health department's putting together a more streamlined form so that they can handle the request moving forward. What we're asking all the businesses to do right now is just to hold tight with us and give us, we probably won't see any supplies until sometime next week, so give us a week from Monday before they start really hitting us up and requesting those supplies so we can streamline the process and get them out.
And other than the cost to a business of getting these resources in a private manner and not from the county, would it be fair to say that the quality of your mask would be better than some of the products that could be purchased?
I don't think the quality of our masks are any better. I think the only thing that could save them is cost or time to get them. I know there's been some organizations that have reached out to us saying, hey, we just simply can't get these non-surgical masks, and now we can provide them. But what we get is no better than what the general consumer can get.
Okay. Well, I see advertisements daily now for private delivery of masks, and you wonder whether some of those have any quality to them.
So non-surgical masks, none of them pass. So they'll do a fit test for any of the N95s that go to our healthcare workers or any of the surgical masks. But those are still reserved for healthcare workers, and that is still a 14-day supply that they can request. But any of the non-surgical stuff, they don't pass any sort of the test. Some of the KN95s that came out of China that originally were supposed to go to healthcare workers that didn't pass the test are now the non-surgical masks that are going to the private businesses and lay public.
Good. Thank you. Ron, questions?
I don't have any. I presume they're tested so they don't have any COVID-19 on them.
They do not. Thank you.
Okay, at this point in time, we come to public comment time. Is there anybody in the audience? I'm seeing that an indication that there's nobody here for public comment today. Okay, item 6 is determine additions or revisions to the agenda. Commissioner Hurst, I'd like to suggest that we add item B to the consent agenda, which would be approving Jackson Swear to be representative of Reno County to the SCED board.
I would approve that.
Okay. We need a vote on that addition.
for the addition, I don't think you need
Okay.
to vote.
Okay, so we'll add item B to the consent agenda. Commissioner Hurst, do you have any additions or revisions you'd like to make?
I do not.
County Administrator?
No.
Okay. Thus, we'll go on to the consent agenda, which is item A, vouchers in the amount of $225,869.76, and the appointment of Jackson Swear as a Reno County representative to the SCED Board to replace Jim Seitnader. Is there a motion for this consent agenda?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented and added.
And I will second that. There's no questions, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hirsch,
Yes.
Commissioner Sellers.
Yes. Okay, our next item is a audit report by Adams, Brown, Barron, and Ball. I believe that's going to be a Zoom meeting, or something similar to a Zoom meeting. I believe we'll be meeting with Melissa Romey concerning our 2019 audit. It's obvious to be a county administrator, you need to have technical capabilities.
That's in better hands than me.
That's right. Or both of us combined, probably.
Probably two.
Enter your participant ID followed by You are in the meeting now. There are 3 participants in the meeting.
Hello? Jamie or Melissa, are you there?
Randy, it looks like your video's not on, and you've got
Yeah,
your,
we don't. I don't have the video here, but they. So, let me.
Good morning.
Good morning. Melissa, this is Randy, and we're on your item, the audit item. So, the commissioners are here.
I don't think your mic is muted, according to the.
I'm on this one.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me? Melissa, can you hear me?
I sure enough can. Can you hear me, Randy?
Yes, and the commission's here, so this item's on the agenda.
Very good. Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'd like to present, I have Jamie Spinachek with me, and I'm Melissa, and we'd like to go over and present the audit report to you. If I could have you go ahead and flip to page 1 of the audit. On page 1 of the audit report is what we call the independent auditor's report. And as I'd indicated last year, this report shows that the county has an unmodified opinion, and that's the best type of opinion that you can get. That means that you presented the financial statements on the statutory basis of accounting, and that you did everything correctly within the statutory basis of accounting. Are there any questions on the opinion letter, or I'm going to have you go ahead and move over to page 4 of the audit report?
I have none as I've reviewed the letters earlier.
Perfect. So on page receipts, expenditures, and unencumbered cash. And for the presentation, I'm going to look at 3 columns from the right-hand side of the page. And this right here is what we call your ending unencumbered cash. Ending unencumbered cash is important to the county because this is where you start your 2021 budget process with. So in your unencumbered cash balance, several years ago, there were questions about what is the perfect cash balance here? And the answer is it's up to the commission to decide what they want, but in taking that into consideration, the commission would look at items that they're going to do within the next 5 to 10 years. Because again, those balances should be able to take care of operating needs, plus any type of capital improvements, whether it be bridges, roads, other infrastructure, whether you need equipment, computers, police cars, anything like that, law enforcement, ambulances. Again, those unencumbered cash balances, you look at them over a 10-year period in which you need to have set aside. Are there any questions on that? If not, then I'm just going to hit a couple of funds that I think are important. And in the general fund, you'll notice that your ending unencumbered cash balance went up from $12,775,000 from $9.4 million a year ago, which is 3.29. However, as you look down through the other balances, you'll notice that some funds actually had a decrease in balances, and so the general fund is important to keep a healthy fund balance because the general fund can pay for anything. So if you have a project that comes up and you have the budget authority set aside, you could actually use the general fund to pay for that. So again, the general fund is something that we do look at as auditors just to make sure that there is a balance there and to see what you're going to do with it in the next 5 to 10 years. The next one that's always of importance is the Road and Bridge Fund. And in the Road and Bridge Fund, it actually went down by $438,000 to $1.1. The next one is the Special Road Fund. And again, when you use the Special Road Fund, that's to do road repairs and that. You'll notice that it went down by $514,000 to $115,000. I'm going to jump you down about another 4 line items to the Health Fund, the Public Health Fund. And within the Public Health Fund, you'll notice that we started the year with $780,000 and we ended the year with $796,000. So we were able to keep this fund fairly consistent. I'm going to jump you down about another 5 line items to the Employee Benefits Fund. And again, for your employees, this is something that's very important, is to make sure we've got funding set aside to pay for the employees' benefits on an ongoing basis. And so this went up about $940,000 over the previous year, which again was, when you did the budget for 2019, these are some of the things that you'd anticipated, and the revenue coming in and then keeping your expenditures down is why you're able to increase your overall unencumbered cash balance. The other one I'm going to have you jump down to, again, it's the 5th line item below, and it's the Capital Improvement Program Fund. And this one right here is you have a levy for the Capital Improvement Fund. You started the year with $266,000. You ended it with $467,000. Then looking at the Special Equipment Fund right below that, you started the year with $80,000, and then you have $652,000 put away into this fund. The rest of the funds on this page are for the fire districts, the sewer districts, and a few of the other non-budgeted funds. I'm going to have you flip over to page 5. I'm going to have you look at the 7th line item down, 3rd column from the right-hand page, and you're going to notice that there's just a dash in that line item. This right here is the jail sales tax revenue fund, and as you are all aware, you were able to retire the sales tax bonds last year, which is really good for the county. The other item I'm going to jump you down to take a look at is halfway down the page, and it's the underneath capital projects line item. There's about 4 dashes before you get to it. You do have a bridge improvements fund that is going on, and so in your unencumbered cash balance, you have some general obligation bonds. You received $6.2 million and have remaining $5.8 million at this point. Going down to the very bottom and by the double underlined columns, you'll see that at the end of this year, you had $49.6 million in overall cash for all funds of the county. You started the year with $49.9, so you'll notice you went down by about $300,000 overall. Is there any questions on this page? Since there's not, I would like you to turn to page 20. As you flip through the pages, these pages are what we call the notes to the financial statements, and within there are the different accounting methods and how they were applied to the financial statements. And so if you read over them and have a question, I would ask that you give Jamie or I a call, and we'd be more than happy to explain it to you. If we've arrived at page 20, this right here is what is your long-term debt. These are your general obligation bonds, your temporary notes, and then also the capital leases that the county has. If you'll notice at the beginning of the year, you started off with $20,766,472. You had additions to debt of $6.5 million. You paid off $14.6 million in debt, which again, the majority of that was the sales tax bonds on the jail. And then you had overall debt at the end of the year of $12,675,935, which will be paid off if you took out no additional debt in the year 2039. Are there any questions on anything here? I'm going to have you flip clear back to about the last couple of pages of the audit report on page 113. And again, as you're flipping through this, you do not have any budget violations, meaning you did not overexpend any of the funds. If you've gotten to about page 113, this is really the overall look, quick view of the audit report. As you know, on the audit report, you have what we call a single audit or a uniform guidance audit because you've received and expended over $750,000 in federal funds for the year. And so this report is filed with the Federal Clearinghouse. And underneath it, what they take a look at is this page right here that has schedule of findings and question cost. And this, if you look underneath it, we talk about the financial statements in section 1. And the financial statements are unmodified, and they were presented on the regulatory basis of accounting. We noted no material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or any material noncompliance to the financial statements. So that's a perfect report. If we look underneath the federal awards, and we had one federal major program this past year, and that was the formula grants for the rural areas or your buses. Underneath there, again, we talk about the type of audit report. It's unmodified, and we had no material weaknesses nor significant deficiencies, nor did we have any type of compliance issues that were to be noted within this. The one thing at the bottom of the page, it asks if you qualify as a low-risk auditee. You would not, for the simple fact that you do your financial statements on the regulatory basis of accounting. It has nothing to do with internal control or any issues within your system. It's just that the regulatory basis of accounting is not recognized as an alternative method underneath the new Uniform Guidance Act. In the past year, if you look on page 116, you will notice that the county had expended $1,794,589 in federal expenditures, with the major program being the rural area bus at $875,256. Are there any questions?
Melissa, does your group have any recommendations of changes in processes for the county for this upcoming year?
For the upcoming year, unless you've changed something materially, which I was not told that you had, your processes are working as intended. Meaning we didn't have anything from the 2019 audit that we were recommending to change.
Is there anything that we can provide that can simplify your audit processes?
Leslie actually does a very nice job of providing any information that we do need. Randy was very helpful, and we went over the process and the audit report with both of them before we actually sent it out to use. So at this point, probably not.
Okay, Randy, do we need to approve this audit report?
Yes, there does need to be an adoption of it, of approval.
Commissioner Hurst, is there a motion to that effect?
I would move to approve the 2019 audit report by Melissa Romey with Adams, Brown, Barron, and Ball as presented.
Second. Is there any further discussion of this item by anyone in the audience? Leslie, do you want to make any comments?
Thank you, Chairman. Leslie Roderer, I'm the financial specialist for Reno County. My main job here is to be the audit liaison. So I drafted the financials and I coordinated receiving in all of the audit support from the various departments. And I really would like to thank all the departments of the county for doing a good job with their accounts all year long and being very cooperative on providing what we need for the audit. It was a challenging environment with just as we were wrapping up year end and trying to put a bow around it. The COVID situation hit and many of our county people were teleworking. I started teleworking, the auditors were teleworking, so we had an unusual environment this year, and I think all of our people really came through. I'm very proud of our ability to do a good job in the audit and to have our accounts be in good shape all year long. We had no audit adjustments, and the governance letter mentions no comments, and I think that's what we strive for every year, and I'm very happy to have achieved it. And I think our transition of, we worked with 3 county administrators for the year. Gary Meager was here most of the year. Bill Hermes took over on an interim basis, and Randy came in, and we got him right into finishing up year end. So I think we had a great year, and I just appreciate everything very much that our whole organization did to make this a success.
Leslie, I'd like to thank you. I really feel that your position here at the county provides an exceptional service to make sure that during the year that we're keeping all this up to date, everything balances so that when we go to the audit process that we don't have a significant or any changes as this report. And I think it's obvious that throughout the year you're making sure that the books are in balance so that we don't have exceptions on the audit report.
Yeah.
And I thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that.
I just commented to Randy this morning that no drama and to be boring is good on this.
I too want to second that because I know that Leslie puts in lots and lots of extra hours to accomplish this, and appreciate that very much on those items, especially this year when things come up.
Yeah. I actually don't recall if I thanked Melissa Romy and Jamie Benishek. They were really excellent to work with, and I appreciate being able to consult with them as we go along during the year. And that also really helps the year-end process because we don't want our auditors to have any surprises. And we'd like to have their feedback on anything significant that we do all year. So Melissa and Jamie, I really appreciate your work on our audit too.
Have a competent professional here in the house is worth a lot.
I agree. Randy, before we vote on this, is there anything that you see in the way Reno County does things that, or this audit compilation that is different than you're used to? Or is there any suggestions that you would make for the future in the way we do accounts?
There are differences from what I'm used to. The main differences is the way encumbrances are done here compared to my previous experience and the use of reserve funds, but some of that may be, the reserve fund may be discussed at a later date this year. But overall in the audit, I think Leslie and Melissa with the company have done a great job. So I think it's done very professionally here.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions before we call the roll?
I have none.
Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Sutton,
Yes. Melissa, thank you for your time this morning, and Jamie, we appreciate it. Wish you could be here with us in person, but hopefully next year you will be.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate everything, and we do appreciate Leslie and all the help that we received from everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, goodbye.
Okay, Randy, have we contracted with them for the 2020 audit?
That is the contract currently in existence goes through the 2020 audit, so there's one more year with this.
And can
current
someone
contract.
tell me how many years that this contract's been? And I'm sorry
Been
to ask
3
that.
years? The 3-year contract?
Commissioner, this contract was a 3-year engagement letter. So the 2018, 2019, and 2020 audit were priced out at fixed fees with a 3% increase each year. But Gary Meeker and I worked with Melissa Romy at Adams, Brown, Barron, and Ball to bring the starting figure for the audit fee significantly down from previous years to reflect that we are now writing our own financial statements and providing everything on their list of what they need and maybe more. So this was a 3-year contract. The prior contract was 3 years. And I believe, and that covers my whole time period, I believe that they were here for 3 years before that, the same firm.
Okay, so this same firm has been here for at least 6 years working for the county.
Yeah, probably 9. Well, 8, 9,
Okay,
I believe. But I'd have to delve back into the time period
that's fine. Just
before I was here.
general information about
So,
the continuity and so forth. I think it's nice that our contract is with a company that has been expanding significantly within Reno County. Their presence here is much bigger than it was through 5 years ago, and with staff. I understand Melissa does not work in this office, but I think she's should be considered kind of local, since they do have a significant presence here in Reno County. Okay, from there we'll go to the county administrator report for today.
Okay, just give you a quick update. The CARES Act money from Spark, the money that's at the state of Kansas, and then will be distributed to all counties in the state of Kansas. Reno County will be getting $12.6 million in this funding. It'll take a resolution that the county commission will have to adopt by July 12th. And this Friday, the Kansas Association of Counties is hosting a webinar that's going to go over kind of a toolkit, spreadsheets, to track reimbursements, kind of what's eligible, what's not eligible with this money, and kind of the rules and as they see, since it's hard to find rules and regulations of the use of this money, and then disbursement to cities in Reno County and possibly school districts. And all of this has to be COVID-related expenses that this money is being spent on. The expenditures would be mid-March through December of 2020. So it could be some reimbursement for expenses that have already taken place that have not been covered by other federal funds and that were not budgeted, or upcoming expenditures. So after Friday, hopefully after that Zoom meeting, I'll have a little bit better idea of the next steps for Reno County.
Would you say, Randy, in our conversations earlier this week, that the amount publicly sounds large, but there are so many restrictions and guidance and regulations with it, yet to be fully known, which I think a lot of it will come out Friday, that's not necessarily indicative of what the actual true availability of these funds will be.
Right. There has to, because $12.6 million is a lot of money. This has to be new expenditures or expenditures only related to COVID. But there's been a lot of other federal grants and money that has come into Reno County for various businesses or the government. So this has to be new or something that's not covered. So we don't have to use all that money. If there's not a legitimate reason or a case or expenditures, the money doesn't just come here for us to sit on or to cover other budget shortfalls that are not COVID related.
Okay, and is this money totally restricted to government entities?
This first round, and that's what I'm going to find out a little bit more, the amount of money that the state has, the first round is $400 million, which is going out to 103 of 105 counties. Johnson and Sedgwick already received their money directly, so the other counties are receiving this amount. My understanding is that the Spark committee that the governor put together is wanting this to be distributed to cities in the county, so counties and cities, and possibly school districts, public school districts. I'm not sure about community colleges. I'm still looking into some of that. But this wouldn't, at this time, I don't think this is for private businesses.
Just for information, who will you have anybody from the county with you on that call on Friday?
I will probably have Leslie.
Leslie,
just
good idea.
because the money's coming through here.
I wasn't asking, but I was kind of going there.
Yes, she was.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
If I could mention at the very end of our audit report this year, when Melissa Roman pointed out the $1.8 million of federal funds and the major programs, each major program causes them to do additional auditing procedures, and based on a webinar I was in last week, the government entities that have a June 30th year end are almost in crisis mode from having to deal with how to account for all the federal expenditures. So we have internalized that we need to document, and make certain we won't need to repay anything. So it's fraught with a lot of guidelines that may or may not be clear, and we're going to do everything we can to comply and protect ourselves with what they
Good point.
indicate. You know.
Okay, one other question there, and maybe I misunderstood something that I read, but the amount of money that Reno County is getting is $12.6 million. Was that allocated on a per person share? But Leslie, you're saying yes.
The first part was $194 per person.
Which is $12.6 million.
No, that's the first amount, and that was tied to the amount that Sedgwick and Johnson County received directly.
Okay.
The second part of the amount was dollars per person based on COVID-19 and unemployment rate. So for that part, Reno County received an additional $578,352
for both of those.
For the two together. The first amount, just the $194 per person, was $12,043,731. With they said our population is 61,998 people.
Okay, so due to the fact that our health director has kept our case count low, we're getting less money than other counties? Because part of this is on case count?
For the additional amount past the $194 per person. So Reno County received what it equaled out to is $203.59 per person, compared to
take a Ford or Finney.
Ford County received $330.42 per person, so they're getting $11.1 million with a population of 33,619. So almost half the population, but they receive almost as much money as Reno County.
See, I guess I struggle with that, and I realize that it's not our call to make the rules, but here we took great strides to keep our count low, and I'm assuming our unemployment rate is lower than some, and so we're being given less money to do a good job than you would have been given if you did a poor job within your county. Correct?
Yeah, the lower cases and the less unemployment, so Reno County is getting a lower amount per person of the population.
Maybe the unemployment level, I can understand that if you had a higher unemployment than we do, that you need more money to help with that rebound. But I struggle with their criteria that the counties that really worked hard, which I feel like we did, are being being given less money than a Ford and Finney that should have worked hard with those packing plants on day one. So, you share any of those concerns?
Yeah, some, but I'll take health over money anytime.
Well, I would.
And our work here, and our people are not as concentrated in specific areas as some counties are. For instance, with the unemployment situation, Sedgwick versus Reno, where they're dependent primarily on a smaller amount of large employees, and we have a little difference. So
that chart that you're looking at, Randy, can you maybe provide the commissioners a copy of?
Yes, I will email
I think
it
it
to
would
you.
be interesting information to look at. Okay, I understand, Ron, that what you're saying is that it's always best to do as well as you can do, and that's what we've been doing in Reno County. So, anything else on your report, Randy?
Just to let you know, the CDBG CV grant applications are still open through July 2nd. And so far, what I've seen, we've only received one application. So hopefully other businesses that are outside the corporate limits of Hutchinson are looking at this to apply for some of this money. So.
You know, I have contacted some banks around, the local banks, as well as some individuals, like a trip out yesterday west, to make sure that they knew about it. There's a limited amount of qualified companies out there that will partake in this program. What I see is, and I haven't explained yet, is there's some individual self-proprietorships of just one person that probably don't qualify for this because of employee status requirements. But anyway, I think that we've tried to get the word out, and I believe the Chamber's tried to get the word out too as much as possible. But we just need the city clerks and so forth to make sure that they're done, because there's limited amount of availability out there.
Yes, and
Well,
Deborah with the Chamber said she was going to send out another notice this week.
Well, it just seems like to me, just with thoughts within Reno County businesses that are outside the city limits, there certainly would be more than one that have been affected negatively by what's gone on that could be helped by this.
I think the question, and you're right, Commissioner, but I think the question is how much do I want to get involved with the government over this, and how much time is it going to take to get an amount, and is it worthwhile to do? I know, I certainly agree with you that there are some out there, quite a few out there that have been negatively impacted that should seriously look at this.
Randy, give me a little bit of a feel of what they've got to claim harm on their application for consideration. It's not, you could claim lack of sales, you could claim wages, you could
inventory.
It doesn't seem like to me, to my knowledge, that this is going to be that difficult to suggest that a county business has been harmed due to COVID.
Yeah, I think maybe the holdup, maybe just filling out the application. I mean, there are a lot of questions in the low to moderate income questionnaire. I'm not sure if that's something people don't want to ask their employees.
Yeah, it could be.
I did email the Haven city clerk, and she indicated that there's a couple businesses that are looking at it. I don't know if they will apply, but
when I was down to Haven, I found that too. The two businesses I stopped at.
Yeah, it's interesting on this that to qualify, you got to be low to
51% LMI employees.
Yeah. And where on most things that we do with the county, we encourage people to pay
more,
at least the average within Reno County.
Yes.
So
Although LMI income has the qualification level has continued to rise. Am I correct, Randy?
Yes, it has. I don't know what the numbers are right now, but it's income, but then it also depends on the number of people in your household. So,
but I would think there'd be a lot of qualifications at the rural level. I really do. And but anyway, that's been my contact. Is they have until July 2nd. To get the application in.
And the county can always extend that. I think the money has to be spent by June of 2021.
Okay.
So there is time. That was just the initial application deadline. The county can extend that if we need to do more work getting out to people.
That's something I might check on with regard to that, and I make a phone call. I can help out with that. So to
Well,
contact the local areas, but
Please do, Commissioner Hurst, because to me it seems unfortunate if we have this money available that our rural Reno County businesses aren't able to qualify for.
yes, the opportunity is there.
Mm-hmm.
It should seriously be looked at. I agree with you. But we have one other thing out there that probably makes a little bit of difference, is the fact that some of them were regarded as essential businesses, so they may not have been affected quite as strong as other areas. So, and what the percentage is, I don't know, but I know that some of them out there were considered essential businesses that continued to operate, and whereas they may have to look at sales or inventory or something like that, which is qualifiable
Yes,
under this program.
correct.
Wouldn't, I'm just continue to think about what type of businesses might qualify. Wouldn't any, it would seem like to me that most of our rural cafes,
Yes,
things like that would qualify.
yes, they do.
Many of them had to close up, and that's not a particularly high wage
No,
situation. I certainly hope that people look to see how they might use this money.
yes, and I'm also in that same category as restaurants. You're looking at hair salons or salons themselves, that how they're handled with regard to employees may make a difference.
Certainly.
Yes.
Okay. Other things, Randy, this morning?
Yeah, I just wanted to report, last week, the Planning Commission met, and that was here in the courthouse, and I think it was a really good meeting. The logistics worked pretty well. There were a couple issues with the audio, and Mike and IT worked really hard to get that to where it worked so people could hear up here, and maybe something in the near future if we continue to have those type of meetings in this location. We look at new equipment, better audio visual, so that it's prepared. So we're prepared for those type of meetings.
Certainly.
But it seemed like everyone was well behaved and going back and forth between the two rooms. So I think it went well. And Commissioner Hurst was also here.
Okay. Is there a way I can get a tape of that meeting? I was not in attendance, but I'd like to listen to the whole meeting.
It is on YouTube. I'm not sure how great the audio is via YouTube, but that's the recording we have of it. So if you go to the YouTube and type in the Reno County, that's the page, the Reno County page.
The Reno County.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try.
And that's all I have.
I'd like to follow up on that, if I may, Commissioner Sellers, is the fact that there were some people here that did an excellent job. Mike Matthews of IT was here bustling up and down and trying to figure things out, and I'll tell you what, he deserves credit for his work on this to try to get it as best as possible. Randy, from his standpoint, was doing the same thing and helping Mike and up back and forth and explaining things to the people that had questions on how it would be handled, and did an excellent job, along with Counselor was here, and Russ Gertz as chair, I thought did a good job explaining everything, and just handled it very professional. And anybody else that was involved with that, but those are the folks that I think really deserve a real thank you for their effort put forth in doing that. And the people were understandable and did that. And then afterwards there was some questions, and Randy brought up planning and zoning and explained the procedures from forward that I thought was didn't you feel was well received? And
Yes,
they
sir.
had questions, and he answered them very well.
Yeah, Mark did a great job of explaining the next steps in the process.
Okay, with that, Ron, do you have other items this morning for comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, I believe the only item I have this morning is a question. Randy, you suggested that we wanted to further discuss our Thursday and Friday budget meetings. You're suggesting that Commissioner Bush cannot be here Friday, but he can be here Thursday.
I believe in a note that Joe just gave me a little while ago, I believe he may be gone for both, but available via Zoom or a phone call. So we'll probably call Commissioner Bush in on those calls, at least on probably Thursday, maybe Friday.
Well, obviously, it would be better to have all three commissioners here, but I feel like we've delayed this a week already, and I feel we need to go ahead, and at this point in time, I think it makes sense, to me at least, to do it in the 2 days. I think if you try to do it in one day, you get tired and distracted, for my feelings.
I'm fine with that and agree that we need to proceed with this, especially when it's available through electronic means or even just the telephone conference.
Okay, so I think we have agreement to go ahead and meet at 8:30 Thursday, June 25th in this room. We'll be starting with administrator comments, and then at 9 o'clock we'll start with the agencies, the departments, and then we'll continue this at 8:30 a.m. on Friday morning, June 26th.
And then just a reminder, since these are budget sessions, we don't have staff here to televise this. It is an open meeting. The public can come in and listen. The county clerk's office will be here to take some notes, and the press is welcome. It has been requested by at least one of the press media members to get a copy of the budget notebook, so I will be emailing the notebook that you guys received and have a hard copy of via email later today or tomorrow, so that the media also has this.
Do appreciate getting that hard copy to look at and go through.
Okay, if there's more than 10 people present, they can hear the meeting in the overflow area.
If there's more, we may need to look at going to a bigger room. We're not going to have the audio visual on for this meeting.
Then I would suggest that we move it to a bigger room.
We could go ahead and go down to the veterans room.
Because I don't want to in any way restrict anybody that wants to come and hear budget items. You know, if there's 10 citizens that want to hear the different budgets, and I'm assuming you'll have the different department heads come in as their time is on the agenda.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Every department head knows what time they're coming in, and they'll come in and may have a staff member with them. I'm not sure if it'll be just the directors or.
If we move to the veterans room, do we have phone capability of including Commissioner Bush if he's available?
Yes, we'll make sure that we do.
Is that acceptable to you, Ron?
Yes, that's acceptable. I don't know how many will show up. We
Well,
don't have anybody here, so is it?
I understand that, but I just don't feel that it's fair if somebody is interested.
Yeah, you're
to
right.
exclude them.
You're right.
And being correct, if I remember last year's budget sessions, I don't believe we had anybody from the public show up.
And downstairs, it'll be easier then to make the tables to where you can spread out your notebooks without the microphones here, and then be face to face with the directors instead of them standing up or from a distance. So we'll make it work. It probably won't be a lot of people that attend, but
nonetheless,
we can
be
make
available
it work down there.
People can.
Okay, then, Randy, one other question. With Shonda on vacation, we already have a copy of next week's agenda. And am I correct that the capital improvement plan is on for discussion and approval?
Yes, well, at least discussion, you guys can table it. So the CIP, the capital improvement plan, that's in your notebooks and that will be on next week's agenda, is a full 5-year plan. The 2021 requests are already in the budget, so that's in their 2021 operating requested budget. So you'll also see that and can ask some of those questions on Thursday and Friday of specific departments. The document being brought to you guys is the formal CIP. That's
The
per
5-year.
resolution is needed to be done before July 1st. To be at least brought to you.
Which is a plan for upcoming years and modified every year through the budget process.
So what you're suggesting is if we have questions of a certain department on their 5-year plan, we should ask that during our Thursday, Friday meeting?
That would be the easiest part if you have any specific issues. If there's any questions or departments that are specific questions that we know about, I can have them at next Tuesday's commission meeting for additional questions, separate from Thursday and Friday.
Okay, understand I think Commissioner Sellers' study time is going to be significant here in the next couple of days.
You may, since it might be hot and humid out in the afternoon, that's when I plan on it.
Okay. Okay, if there's County Councilor, do you have anything today?
I'd like to talk to you just about a couple things, if I could. One is the appeal that's still pending in district court on the Pretty Prairie Wind case. And Commissioner Hurst heard my response to a question in this regard Thursday night. One of the members of the Planning Commission wanted to know the status of that appeal and whether Judge Chambers' decision on the motion for partial summary judgment ended the case, and the answer is no. It was just the motion challenged the protest petitions on one of numerous bases that they had raised in their petition, and so there will be a status conference. Judge Chambers scheduled a status conference with legal counsel for July 2, as I recall, to try to lay out how we're going to proceed at this point. It is possible that that Pretty Prairie Wind will seek an interlocutory appeal of Judge Chambers' decision. Interlocutory means that it's before all of the issues in the case have been tried and determined. It's in the middle of the case, if you will, and an appeal like that can only be made with the consent of the district court or of the Court of Appeals. It's not a matter of right that they can file that if they decide to do that and proceed. So that's a decision that that Pretty Prairie Wind will have to make. And it's not required to seek that appeal until such time as the journal entry is filed with the court of the judge's decision made on May 21. And counsel are working on the findings of fact and the conclusions of law which are required to be put into that journal entry. I'm hoping that it will be filed maybe by the end of this week. I'm not personally working on it, so I can't control that, but I'm hoping at least in the next week it will be filed. And then we'll just have to see whether the proceedings, if there's an appeal to the Court of Appeals, I would think that the current proceedings will be stayed. Nothing will happen until the Court of Appeals determines the rules on if there's an appeal on Judge Chambers' decision. And that could be definitive as to the outcome of the case. If the Court of Appeals overrules Judge Chambers' decision, then it is likely that the 2-to-1 vote of this county commission to approve the CUP would probably stand. but a lot of speculation is involved as to what may happen. We really don't know the course at this point. If the appeal is not allowed to go forward, then I think all of the remaining issues that were raised would be tried, and the judge would set a schedule for completing discovery, maybe taking a deposition of witnesses, because there would be a lot of evidence that would have to be presented at the trial, which would be before the court, on those issues that were raised. And so conceivably we could be talking about a lot of time before this is finally resolved. And the path is not any clearer than that as far as I'm concerned. The other thing I want to tell you is that we are expeditiously moving with the tax foreclosure case as quickly as we can. It was filed on May 15, which is late by historical standards, and that has a lot to do with our ability to obtain title searches of the properties that we're foreclosing on. Title company was able to complete an additional 14 after the case was filed. I identified those. They're already on the list, and I indicated that if he could get those done in the next month, we could add those 14 to the 134 that we filed on originally, and we were able to do that late last week. So we've gotten through the alphabet from A to Z in terms of initial services of summons, and we're looking over those summonses. Some people were not able to serve, some are not alive. We knew that going in, but we have to make a due diligent effort to give personal notice to everybody. At some point, we will have exhausted our ability to do that, and there'll be a list of defendants who names will be, or for whom notice will be served by publication in the newspaper. And so I would hope we can get that done, because those people have 41 days after the first day the notice is published to file an answer, and that's what continues to extend this case out and get it into the fall. So a lot of work, a lot of detail work. I'm fortunate to have a very good legal assistant who stays on top of those details. But that's the status of that case.
Joe, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. The ability to appeal the judge's decision on the legality of the petitions is up to the judge?
Yes, up to the judge to allow the appeal to go forward, or the Court of Appeals could also agree to allow that to be filed. And I don't know if particularly if an appeal can be made directly to the Court of Appeals, or whether the request has to be made to the district court first. I'm not sure. But you're right, the appeal just cannot be filed as a matter of right. It's permissive.
So is it sensible to believe that the judge would only allow that if he feels like that his decision is somewhat arbitrary?
Well, he probably wouldn't appreciate it if I agree with the question the way you phrased it. He did recognize in his decision from the bench, which was extemporaneous. He had not written it out. He had a lot of notes, but he did recognize that the Kansas Court of Appeals or the Kansas Supreme Court could see the conclusion differently than he did. He didn't necessarily invite an appeal, but he recognized the lack of appellate court law on this subject, and the various points of view that there are. And I would say that he anticipated that the question ultimately would be before the Court of Appeals, but whether it's now or at the end of the case, that's what I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that concludes our meeting today. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.